Welcome to the first Locker Room Report 2024 with hockey coach Go Coach Francis directly from the beautiful country of Thailand. It's directly from the Hawkesbury, back in the house, Marko Labi. And we have a new co-host, Rancho Man is in the house tonight. We have January 4th, 3rd, 2023. So he's still on the Happy New Year, Mr. Marco. So I don't know what's going on. 3 days already. Celebrate again still in 2024.
Either looks like Randy Macho Man Savage or Paul Schaefer. I'm not sure which one, but looks pretty sharp.
Here we go.
Oh, there's an etiquette. You have until the 5th of January to keep wishing people a Happy New Year. So I'm just utilizing that to the most.
It's very clear what the etiquette is, right? Like, so if you see somebody that you haven't seen yet and it's January 12th, you don't say Happy New Year to them. January 5th is your cutoff.
Well, that's what they say. I say it all year long anyways. I just keep saying 2024.
Here we go. It was maybe with Anderson Cooper with CNN at the midnight, at the beginning of the countdown. And maybe we don't know about that. But did you like the bye-bye? you talked about the bye-bye last week, so I did not watch a lot of the bye-bye. But
it was good. It's hard. Like I don't follow. A lot of it is inside jokes, like about Quebec government and everything else. But it's where I get my news about Quebec. Like I watch it once a year. I get all the jokes and the news. It's how I stay in touch with Quebec culture, right? It's the bye-bye.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Like,
Coach, do you know that 92% of, like, you talk about, remember back in the day when there was only 4 networks and people used to all watch the same show? 91% of Quebec households watch bye-bye. It's crazy. 91%. Even North Korea, who only has one TV channel that's controlled by the state media, even they don't get 91% share of eyeballs. That's how popular that show is.
That's
crazy.
And here I thought it was the Lawrence Welk show.
Yeah.
Guess not.
Yeah. Guess not.
I just watched Taylor Swift. I mean, it was like.
Sure.
Anyhow, we have a show tonight, the first of the Locker Room Report. And we want to welcome everybody in the chat. First of all, we have a lot of contents to talk about tonight. We'll be here for about approximately 2 hours. And then we're going to move on to come back next Sunday for the weekly report. It's going to be the first of 2024. So first of all, we're going to welcome Mr. Alan Vaillancourt, directly from Kentucky, is in the house. For another state in USA and Arizona, we're talking about Mr. Larry Lavallee is in the house tonight. Parlons par directement de la belle province du Québec, dans la région de Sherbrooke. Il est de retour avec nous après ce jour dans la région de Chicoutimi ou du Saguenay. Mr. Nicolas de Gauby-Bonneau, welcome back in the house. From the Lake House, directly from the Lake House in the Halifax area. Rick and Demetra Bengal are in the house tonight. Thanks to be with us. And then we have Dan Asham and the beautiful Colette Asham, directly from Winnipeg and Manitoba, is in the house tonight. Directly from Bangkok, Mr. Roy, he is back with us this morning. Happy Thursday morning here in Thailand. Patrick Leblanc, back in the house tonight. Always ask Patrick, what is the bet tonight? What did you do for tonight? He tried yesterday to get a long shot. It's like the trifecta at the horse race. He tried to get a Montreal Canadiens, but it looked like he did not get it last night because the empty net at 6 versus 5. Claude Richard, dans la belle région de Ottawa, il est de retour avec nous ce soir. Welcome back, Claude Richard. Our friend Gary est de retour avec nous ce soir. Wait, watch out your head. Be careful, it's coming very soon. And then we have Willie Snyder, directly from Arvada, and Denver area. Mr. Willie in the mouse, the moose. I'm sorry about that, not the mouse. I'm always thinking about mouse and cheese, me. But the moose is in the house. And then finally, William McLaren, directly from Ontario, is in the house. I would like to hear, Mr. William, what is the first tour of your Polaris? And it's coming the next couple of weeks. Don't forget to stop by to Hawkesbury or I don't know. Not many snowmobile, Mr. Enortap, in downtown Toronto.
No, we don't. Actually, we don't have any snow at all yet.
Oh yeah.
We had a little sprinkling. We had just a little sprinkling a couple days ago, and it's pretty much all gone.
Wow.
We had snow right until Christmas, and then on Christmas Day, by the end of Christmas Day, it was all gone. But we had some on Christmas.
Really?
Yeah. Now it's all gone. All green.
That's good. That's good. You have no snow.
Here it's coming to Thailand.
Here we go. Larry said expecting that we're going to go a little bit high here, but that should be fine now. Here we go. Expecting a lot of snow tonight, but is 350 miles north of me in Flagstaff. Flagstaff is a great area to be in Arizona. Sonoma. Is it Sonoma or Sonoma? Sonoma, I believe it is.
Sonoma, yeah.
Sonoma is the best place. When I visit the Grand Canyon, I stay 2 days as a retreat. And Sonoma, beautiful place to go. If you have a chance to get there, I would suggest you that. That would be the good thing about that. First of all, here you go. Patrick said Toronto by 1.5 goal over the Ducks for 2.1 times the money. Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. I think
actually, I went the opposite way, Patrick. I took the Ducks, and I took Washington to lose by 1.5 goals. I think they're losing now.
New Jersey 3-2, Mr. Enortap at 2:40 to go remaining on the end of the second period. About that.
So I'm down.
Here we go. William, he said, is heading to the Mont Valley to chase the snow coach. Here we go. That's the way to do that. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy said about this. First of all, before we go to what we do usually, we're going to look about the subject we got tonight for everybody. If I can find the graphic. And tonight, guys, it's a great Christmas road trip for the Montreal Canadiens. It was running by the Santa Claus, Martin St. Louis. And he was right there working hard. Travel is with all his team behind him. From Carolina to 7 different cities, and we're going to talk about what happening to them during that trip. And then I make a video about the first top line, Suzuki, because Mr. Enortap called that line that way. And then I got someone else said this in French, Suzuki. In French, I think it was coming from Eric M on the comments. And then finally, if you follow my Frenchie and Terrain, the Pattaya countdown at 2024. I made 2 videos. The first one is 12 minutes of the full video of the fireworks. And then after that, this one is about what happening on the street, on the beach, and then the fireworks. So very interesting to watching if you like fireworks. What it was funny, guys, is like if you go there, you have fireworks everywhere. Like you can get 5 different cities at the same time if you're on the right spot, and you can see all the fireworks everywhere. So,
nice.
So that was pretty cool to be in there. But it was my first because last year I didn't make it. I did not go there. It was my first one. This is the most time of the year they have the most people on the beach. The international fireworks is another events were in November. You get a lot of people, but last week it was like the most. I never see like it was crowd everywhere, and then the next one's going to be the Songkran, where's the water boom boom. Happening in February. So, but again, it was a great time. I enjoyed it. It was the most important thing. And then we go now on 2024. And my word of the year this year is balance. Every year I do this from 2008. I pick one word of the year, and I stuck with this to look about what I see. Last year was about transformation, and this year I pick up the more balance. I want to be balanced on every area of my life. So that was my word of the year. I suggest everybody to take one and then stuck with this for the year. And I just want to share it with you, everybody. But we're going to start with the headline. Very interesting. When we do headline, I want to be sure with everybody in the chat. We never ask each one of them. Never ask them what is the headline. I make my headline before Mr. Enortap. So we'll be interested what's happening about this. Starting with the headline of the night. Here we go, Mr. Marko Larabé. You're going to the first one. And then Mr. Marko should be here. Here we go.
Yes, sir. So I think we've talked about this before, Coach. So any successful coach, especially in a team that is kind of in the progress of kind of building from the ground up, you have to be an amazing salesman, right? So I found this one picture. It looked like he was posing for like Amway or something like that. You know, it's a good sales headshot kind of thing. He looks very professional. But yeah, I think in order for the players to really buy into kind of playing the right way, you need the coach to be a salesman and really kind of convince the players that maybe giving up some easy offensive looks, cheating a little bit for offense, convincing them that playing the right way is going to lead to results, right? And I think, as we've talked about a lot, over the last couple of weeks, Montreal's been, we understood that they kind of discovered the standard which they could play, the games against Vegas earlier in the season. We saw that they could play with the big boys. And then it was about chasing consistency, right? So, I'm sure we're going to talk about the road trip here and especially the last couple games. What I'm seeing anyway is finding a little bit of consistency, maybe not in the results, but we're seeing a lot of new things from the Montreal Canadiens, things that I haven't seen in a long time, and we'll get into that. But I just wanted to, kind of point out that Martin Saint-Louis is doing an amazing job convincing the players to jump on the train, learn to play the right way, and we're really starting to see the results of that, right? So, Enortap, what are your thoughts on Saint Louis so far in terms of him, kind of, because we've talked about this before, right? Like the interesting thing about a first-time coach, never had any NHL experience, what we liked about having Martin Saint Louis is that, yes, we're having young players that are progressing, but we're also seeing a coaching staff that is progressing, right? So curious to see kind of your thoughts on Saint Louis and how he's kind of managed things over the road trip, I guess, in particular.
Marko, I couldn't agree with you more. He definitely is a great salesman. He's definitely gotten, more important, he's gotten the team to buy into what he's selling, and I think that sort of compensates sometimes for the lack of experience that you might have as a head coach coming into a situation. Now he does have obviously the pedigree as a hockey player, and that takes you a certain stage, but in the end, when the players are buying into what you're selling and they're utilizing it and the results are coming to fruition, then that's when you put the foot to the pedal to the metal, right? As they say, and that's what I'm starting to see as well. So you're absolutely right. He's doing a marvelous job, and we see him even when he's in press conferences. Even the way he answers his questions. Sometimes he answers a question with a question, so it really gets you thinking in terms of where they're headed. And I so far I like the results.
So, Coach, I have kind of a follow-up question for you on this one, and maybe you'll pay attention to what we're talking about. So out of all the players, so if Martin Saint-Louis, his main task is selling to his players, how to play the right way. Based on your experience, which of the players that are currently on Montreal's roster do you think would be the most challenging for Saint Louis to get to buy in to what he's trying to do? Like, is there any player from your observation that you think you would have a more challenging time selling to compared to somebody else?
I think if a quick for that, I would be like more the veterans players. They've been in the league for many years, and you ask them, they play on the same way for about 10 years, example, like a Gallagher example, right? Not say they want to learn from Martin Saint Louis, but to change his game is very difficult. So other veterans, like they have to learn different things where they always been played that way. It takes a bit longer to change their game. Josh Anderson is a great example. Play at least 7-8 years before he met Martin Saint Louis as a coach, and he completely transformed Josh Anderson to understand, you don't have to be to speed on your max to have a good opportunity. You can slow the game with the puck if you have a better option to pass the puck, so have a better vision example. And those kind of players, I think they are a little bit more time. It take time to change, to transform, to become the way Martin Saint we see the game differently. But when you talk about salesman, is a guy come up at the beginning and by his resume behind him, right? Everybody want to go all in. They want to go buy in. They really trust him. They really respect Martin Saint Louis, and they really love to work for Martin Saint Louis, and they love to have be and to be really a good coach for them. At the end of the day, Marco, we said to you, I think I don't know who will be the future, but if you have to select one specific coach for the one that Montreal was at the rebuilding, I think it's really the good one. They took the right one, I believe, to make that organization from the foundation with the culture. Martin Saint-Louis is really great about communication, motivation, and to really respect the players, play for him. So, yes, sometimes he is bad head. I can see that. Doesn't want to change his mind when he think about this the right thing. So he believe on that one there. And but again, he does a really good job. That's the reason I can. That's the best answer I can give it to you.
I think I agree. Like, you know, you look at a team like Philadelphia, right? And you see what Tortorella is doing with that team. And it makes sense that, you know, usually younger players or unproven players are going to be a lot easier to sell to because they want to impress the coach, right? But getting the veterans to buy in and then help you, you know, be influencers and influence the young teams and support kind of your plan. That's really the key to something like this. So I agree. Like it's probably more challenging for veterans to kind of totally buy in. So good stuff, guys. Enortap, did you want to move forward?
Well done. Yeah, absolutely. Coach?
Awesome. Can we move on?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Number 2, Mr. Enortap, the word P. The P words, honestly, that's what you try to explain to us tonight, Mr. Enortap. But before we start, Mr. Enortap, wait a minute.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
Well done, Coach. Well done.
Like you had that ready. Wow.
Oh, that's great. That's a nice additive there. Well, as we all know, the Habs management, they sort of hesitated at the beginning of the year. You remember at the conference that they had to open up the season to even use the P word before the start of the season. And I think that was probably very shrewd of them. It was prudent because, you know, this team is most likely not going to make the playoffs, even though we called the segment the P word. From my perspective, maybe they meant something else totally different when they used the word P. And I'm thinking maybe when they were referring to the P word, they were really looking at the word progression and not playoffs. And I think both individually as players and also as a team. Now, for me, this annual Christmas road trip was probably, what the doctor ordered for the Canadiens. As they last night handed the Stars a decisive 4-3 loss to conclude their 7-game road trip and end off the road trip at 3-3-1. But if you recall this year, last time, that's probably around the time that things, the wheels started coming off the train a little bit and off the tracks, and they started to spiral from there on in. Now, there's lots of different contributing reasons for it. But what I've seen differently this year so far is exactly that there is a progression that is happening with this team. And it all starts with, I guess, what Marko was saying earlier, getting the team to buy into a certain ideology that the coach has, and then putting that forth and actually actualizing it onto the ice. I thought before the trip began, I think it was in Winnipeg back in early or mid-December. St. Louis was already feeling something was happening positively with the team. He said that at one of his press conferences, and he was hoping that it would be a successful road trip because of that. And it did come to fruition. They had a strong win at home before they left against the New York Islanders, and then they strung together, a few good efforts in a row. Every challenge that the team had, they met with a great effort. They met up with the challenge all the time. You could see confidence slowly starting to build. From an individual perspective, what can you say more than the emergence of that line that we talked about before, the first line with Cole, with Suzuki and Slafkovsky. And these guys are starting to put it together. They're still a long way for them to go to get to where they need to be a true number one line, I believe. But you're starting to see the emergence of a true number one line coming that way. And if you look at last year during the same time period versus this year, the stats are pretty much staggering. I had a look at it earlier: the goals expected, the goals, the Corsi goals for, and all of it. Most of it came from that first line. I like what I'm seeing for the most part. I know there's been a lot of mistakes as well, but I like what I'm seeing from the defensive core as well. They're quickly learning how to. Not only is it a learning experience when they come from behind, it's a learning experience when they're holding a 2 or 3 goal lead, as we saw yesterday, and they're learning the hard way to try to hang on. And it's not easy. Like, that's not something that you regularly practice. Like I thought it was a very good idea that Dallas, with 6 minutes to go, I believe it was, they pulled their goalie. You have nothing to lose at that point. They weren't feeling any sort of momentum swing to feel confident on 5-on-5. So they went 6-on-5, and it's something new. It's something that you don't practice in practices, and so they had to learn how to sort of navigate those kind of situations. And everything that comes up like that when they're playing, sometimes a 5-on-3 and have to kill off a 2-man penalty, or they pull the goalie, whatever the situation is, it's an opportunity for them to keep progressing, to grow together. And what's enabled them, I think, to get to this point of progression is the fact that there's consistency now with their play. It isn't they're doing it every second night or every third night. They seem to be pretty much in every single game. And when the hard work is there, usually the results will come at some point. So maybe the word was progression.
So here's an alternative theory, an alternative P word, I think, for kind of the intent of why they didn't want to say the playoff word. I would use the word pressure. And a very good example of what not to do, I think we saw in Ottawa over the last couple of years. If you guys will remember, Pierre Dorion at some point came out and said, "Hey, the rebuild is over." This was 3 years ago, or I think almost 3 seasons ago, where Pierre Dorion said, "The rebuild is over." And all of a sudden, now the media, the fans, all of a sudden they're like, okay, they're taking their cue from management saying, okay, so I guess we have higher expectations for this team moving forward. And automatically you're putting extra pressure on all these young players to go up to that next level. Now, I'm all in favor of raising standards. And I kind of, the opposite argument that we hear about this is you don't want to create a losing culture by normalizing losing. And I totally agree with that. I think internally in the locker room, you can set a standard that, hey guys, like we expect to go and compete and win every night. You can say that in the locker room. But at the golf tournament, when this whole P word thing came up, I think the main P word that they were concerned about was pressure. And I think they handled it very well. Gorton, Hughes, They're very, very good at having all the same message, whether it's St. Louis in the press conference, even the captain, Suzuki, right? Like all of them had a very consistent message. Like, we're going to be competing. People are underestimating us, and I think we're going to be more competitive than people are. But nobody said playoffs. And the reason I think for that is they didn't want to put undue pressure on themselves in the marketplace. There's a lot of lessons, guys, that we can learn from what Ottawa didn't do properly in their rebuild, I think. Right. And we're seeing a lot of those. Another one, while we're on that,
you can easily just add words like persistence and patience. And we've talked about those throughout the year as well. But yeah, you raise a good point there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Coach. Let's go with your headline. I'm excited.
But, we talk about Martin St. Louis. We talk about the P. I said, why not to combine both of them and create the 7P? And that's what I did. I created a 7P for tonight. And what are they? But I want to talk about the passion about Martin St. Louis he bring on the table. His positivity after the game. Whenever the game is bad, he will find a way to bring some positivity about maybe the game overall. Maybe he played 2 good games and 2 good periods over 3 periods, and he can go all the way that way over there. After that, the process. How many times he talk about the process? This is a 1 new day every single day. That's what he talked to his players 1 new day today. Then the practice. You have to show up at the practice. That's what you make the team better. That's what you make the player better at the practice. And they are well done by Martin St. Louis and Adam Nicolas. Then you have to never give up by perseverance. Whatever, it's a roller coaster. Sometimes he could lose players. Sometimes injuries play a key measure. Saint Martin St. Louis is a coach behind the bench. He's always said to, that train have to move forward. We have to go forward. I don't look behind. It's no matter the injury. Another player come back in the roster, and Martin St. Louis continues. That's perseverance, to be honest with you. Then the progression. You talk about the P word of player, but the progression. You can see how the player develop this year. One of them is Uri Slafkovsky. It's all about what Martin St. Louis is really focusing at the end of the day. Whatever he wants to try to win the game, he always looking for the progression. Sometimes he always said it's another roller coaster. It's not going a line to go all the way like this. It's going to be down, up. Then a great power play for 6-7 game. Then a really bad PK for 6-7 game. And then the fourth checking was great for 2 game. And then they lose the fourth checking on that one. And that's about progression. And finally, for complete the 7P, he need patience behind the bench during that time, the rebuilding. Not only Martin St. Louis, not only the players, but not only the Montreal Canadiens fans, the Blue Blanc Rouge. You need to be patient. It is a long way to get what we're supposed to get, the PW, the P word, like Marko, Enortap talk about. And then it will take a little bit longer for Martin St. Louis to develop those 7P for the Montreal Canadiens. So this is my headline of the day. I would like to hear from you. Let's start it with Mr. Enortap.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were hinting at a few minutes ago. I think you can even add more to that group of 7 that would be appropriate. But I think you captured the essence of it, and they're all part of that growing process that builds the foundation to success. And that's what will sustain success in the future.
I have 2 questions, Coach. So first of all, why only 7? Why did you choose 7 P words? That's my first question. And 2, you were in the process of choosing your word for 2024. You chose balance. I'm surprised you didn't choose a P word. It looks like you're really brainstorming P words. So why didn't you choose like a P word for your 2024 mantra?
Oh, but first of all, the 7P, I created that when I was coaching. I was like, my process of coaching, I bought a bus. And my boss, inside the bus, it was all you have to buy in, hand all in, everything like this. And then inside the bus, you had fun words. And I created a 7P inside of that bus. And you cannot be all in if you don't buy those 7 words with passion, with positivity, process, practice, perseverance, progression, patience, passion. And I will say to you, I never use the word win at the end, because the outcome, it will take itself if you apply those 7P at the end of the day. So at the end of also for my word of the year, It's because I'm at the point in my life where I need to get a bit more balance about different aspect of my life. So health, relationship, friendship, and all the way like this. So that's the reason I use the word balance. So that's the answer to your question.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right,
And
we're going to move on.
usually,
Go ahead.
usually these, usually it's supposed to spell out a word, but this, if you just read it, it just spells. It just P P P P. So usually one of those things is supposed to spell out a word, but it's okay.
Here we go.
Gotta use
We're
the
going to
first
move back
letters.
and where we're supposed to go now. Before we start, we're going to go that way. Sorry about that. We're going to go back right here. We have a few people knock the door the time we did all the headline, in particular, Blanc, Luc, go, Abs, go, Larry Lavallée, of course. Steve G is in the house tonight. He wish us a happy new year. LDP is in the house. One Week Kings, the RG, join us. Don't forget, guys, to click on the like. Jeremy Ala is in the house. One Week Kings, moderator, he is in the house tonight. A fixer knocked the door. Cameron knocked the door. And do I have anybody else? I think I'd bring everybody. I think what we were when we left at this chat to move on for the headline. So I should be right about this. I talk about Steve G. So I think I'm right. And then, of course, we want to thanks everybody to be with us tonight, and we'll see. Question we got in the chat, guys, about this, and I think we can answer right away. I did, but you guys, you can give us a bit more update. Is of course the injury of Josh Anderson happening yesterday. Any update you hear for Marko?
No updates yet, Coach. Like,
Oh, I feel for a few seconds in after he was not listening to me.
I think he was being polite. He was being polite. P for polite.
Yes.
Passive. Yeah, no, Coach. No really updates yet. Like, I think, the team is just traveling back. Probably just arriving in Montreal, so they're probably gonna take a minute to have Anderson looked at, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something, hopefully, in the next press conference that Martin Saint-Louis does. Montreal is going to be playing tomorrow, so you imagine. I wouldn't be surprised though if they need to do extra tests or something. So I don't know if we're going to find out right away, but certainly doesn't look very good. He didn't have any weight at all on his leg. So hoping for the best. Certainly not great news. He had just started really starting to feel things, right? So really bad timing for Anderson. You got to feel for the guy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the worst case scenario that I'm hearing is it could be a torn ACL, in which case you're talking about half a year before it fully recovers. And that will close the books on him, I guess, for this year anyways. Let's hope it's not that. They're supposed to do some further MRIs. They were supposed to do it today, but I haven't heard any results yet. So I'm anticipating tomorrow we'll get further information.
Also, hear that talking about injuries. Max Pacioretty back in the NHL tonight. Play for the Washington Capitals. So glad to hear that. The last time I watched the score was 4-3. The Devils. You talk about goaltender, guys. It's not better to every other team. Washington struggling with that for sure. We have a couple of questions. I would try to pick up one from Willie before I move on for the Roy. I think that's a question. Any question you have, guys, put the little Q and funny questions so I can pick it up. Those questions. Why would you still Rebacker now a why? I think sell a Rebacker. So we talked about this a bit earlier, a couple of days ago, about that. Are you willing to trade David Rebacker? So yes or no? Let's start with Enortap.
Well, I think originally when it was proposed, it was would you trade him for? I think it was what was it, Coach? A round, a sixth or seventh round pick, top 10.
Top 10.
It didn't say. Yeah. It didn't say top 10. I think it said either numbers 6 to 8 or something to that effect. And if that's the question, I'd say absolutely not. If somebody were turning around and say, would you consider it for, a number 1, 2, or 3 pick? That's a different story altogether. And depending on the draft players that are available, I would definitely consider it, only because that's an area of strength that we're dealing from. And so even though, he's supposed to be our, a number 1 or 2 at worst, defenseman on the team down the road. That's the projection for him. If something better comes along that addresses an area of greater need, I would do it. But again, only if it's a number 1, 2, or 3 pick.
All right. So Marco, question: is this version of the app so good that they can forego a high draft pick by chasing stat this year?
I don't know if I don't know if I agree with the question. You know, like not to be mean, but like I don't think they're chasing stats. You know, like I think the management team at the beginning of the year set the goal that they wanted the team to take a little bit of a step this year. Again, we just talked about it. They were very cautious not to use the word playoffs to put undue pressure on the team and all that stuff. But I think everybody was clear that they expected the team to take a step. Now, unfortunately, a lot of things have went wrong, right? Like this year was supposed to be about progression, and I think also about analyzing the players that they have so that they can understand who should be part of this core moving forward. And unfortunately, one of the biggest pieces that you really wanted to analyze, being Kirby Dach, was gone after 4 periods, right? So, so I don't know. Like for me, I don't feel. Yes, Martin Saint Louis is coaching to win games, but guys, he's playing Slafkovsky on the first line. He was very patient with Josh Anderson. Like he's coaching to win, but I don't think he's doing it at the detriment of developing players. Yeah. You can say that Ylonen deserves more ice time, but then he had a fair response to that, saying, "Listen, like Ylonen, he needs to show a little bit more on his 200-foot game, and I'll give him more responsibility." Right. So I don't think Habs are, kind of sacrificing development or progress of their young players in order to do that. So, so ultimately, I don't know if I totally agree with the question. I don't think that they, are kind of like sacrificing or jeopardizing the future by trying to teach their players and create a culture of playing the right way. Right. I think in the end, look at Ottawa, look at Buffalo, look at those kinds of teams that have collected all these great young assets, but still don't know how to play hockey, right? They still haven't figured it out together as a team. And we've had this debate on here many times. Like, would you choose elite talent over a team that has good talent, but maybe not elite talent, but plays like a team and all are playing the same system? It's an age-long debate that many people can have. For me, I still think you need elite talent, but I think it's so important for these young players to grow up in a culture to play the right way. So listen, like, would it be great for them to get a top 5 pick again this year? Sure, especially if it's number 2 or number 1, because and this goes to the Reinbacher question too. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why? So we picked Reinbacher number 5. Why are you trading him for lesser value? If you're trading him for a 7th overall pick, you're actually mismanaging your asset. Like you picked him higher last year, and you're trading him 1 year later without him even playing one NHL game, and you're trading down further. And guys, if you look at the draft ranking, there's not a lot of forwards in the top 10. It's mostly defensemen. Like if you're not drafting 1 and 2, you're not getting, you're not getting Celebrini, and you're not getting Yzerman. And then after that, it's defenseman. There's a Russian kid, and then there's Lindstrom. But I don't know. There's not a lot of top end offensive talent as much maybe as last year's draft, right? So if your objective is to trade Reinbacher or try to tank to get like a top 10 pick, I don't think you're getting your like, top 6, 40, 50 goal scorer in this draft. So,
yeah. And the other thing I would throw in to the original question would be, if you're hoping for that high pick, that means something's gone wrong in your developmental process, and that's not a good sign. So I'll take the development over the draft pick any time of the day. And I think once you develop that culture of winning and you have a team concept, that takes you far.
Yeah. Sometimes I get not upset, but I try to understand why he tried to win over the development, over the progression, everything like that, right? But I can understand the Montreal Canadiens build a culture, and it starts with how you treat your players, how you treat the people around the culture. And it started with Ken Hughes with the players, where he would say to the players, look, I would take care of you, I would do this for you. Don't worry about that. They really not try to hurt anyone about that. They're really loyal and they respect each one of them. Whatever the players coming here for Casey the Smith example, with Jeff Petrie, they are that way. And Martin St. Louis, him, understand the value of the W at the end of the day. Why? Because the next morning you go to practice, right? For him, the W help to keep the enthusiasm, to keep the positive. And at the end of the day, lose or W, he does the same thing the next day, Marko Enortap. He does he try to helping the player to develop. It's not matter. So for him, he see that, I believe he see that way. So you know what? We get a W, we get a W. At the end of the day, he's not in said, I'm no coach to figure out we need to finish 29 and to get possible or not that player or not that players. So for him, he don't worry about the the pick at the end of the year. What is worry him is what he see in front of him and how he can develop that team.
Coaches and players
control.
Yeah, coaches and players don't think about picks. Maybe St. Louis, as part of, he talks to the management group and all that, but he's not thinking about picks. Like, coaches don't think about that stuff.
No,
that's not his job, right?
No.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We have before we talk about the game yesterday. First of all, we have Roger Bouchard back in the house. He feel like he said he apologized. He was not with us. He have a couple of health problems, so we wish him the best luck for Butch and hopefully speed recovery, my friend, and hopefully see you around. He's one of really been with us for many years, and he bring a lot of content, a lot of comments here, or he emailed me. It's funny because a couple of times I go to the gym every day, and then I'm thinking about people I don't see around, what's going on, everything like that, right? It's not easy to communicate with each one of them, but my friend, we wish you the best. We have Mr. Steve G again. Ray Parker is unproven. No need to trade. Luc Lafortune de l'Ange Gardien est de retour avec nous. Notre ami Luc, trade our first and Ray Parker get what coach at the end. Is coach trading? Again, not yet. Luc, I'm coming very soon to make that trade about this. We have a comment from Alan Vaillancourt, finally. Alan, welcome back and say hi to your beautiful wife, Irene, and your mother-in-law. Does the panel feel Monahan is regressing, and it will be trade at the trade deadline?
That's an interesting one. I think if I'm Monahan, I think he is he playing 100% healthy? Probably not. Everybody's got bumps and bruises and everything. So is he, kind of performing at the same level maybe in the first 10 games? You have seen a bit of a drop off, a little bit. But again, he's still finding ways to contribute, so I'm not too worried about that. Is he regressing? Listen, it's not I wouldn't use the word regressing when you're dealing with a veteran player like that, because he's a known commodity, right? You know what you're going to get out of Monahan. Although again, that's the whole debate around whether you want to commit to him long term is what is he going to be long term? Is this the Monahan that we're going to get? Okay, well then you kind of have a better understanding of what that is. I've kind of went back and forth on this question of Monahan, and I think I've made it clear. I think he's probably going to want somewhere around 4.5 million for 3 years to stick around, depending on how rest of the season goes. He may or may not get that with another team. So that's a tough question for Habs management to figure out. But what I can tell you though, the one thing that keeps me in the maybe camp with Monahan is, again, I've been talking to a lot of Senators fans watching Senators games, and guys, you can't underestimate the value of having some veterans in the lineup. You're seeing how critically important that is, and how teams like Buffalo and Ottawa are not taking that step forward. You have a lot of people in the Ottawa organization saying how much they miss a guy like Derek Brassard, who was there last year. Not like he had a huge role on the team either, but just having a guy like that around, they're feeling that in Ottawa, right? So So if you're not going to re-sign Monahan, you need to fill that gap somewhere else, right? So whether he gets, so again, we've talked about this at length. It's the same thing with David Savard. You have to do a calculation in your mind. Is what you're getting back from Monahan worth what you're losing in terms of what he brings to the team? If it's, for me, and I think Enortap agrees with me, getting a 29th overall pick in this year's draft for Monahan or for Savard, for Monahan maybe, but for Savard, I don't think it's worth it because he has another year and he's a right-hand defenseman and all that. So the question is a late round, first round draft pick worth it for what you're losing with Monahan? That's a tough question. Now, again, if you can combine him, package him with something else, and you're getting a 23-year-old top six forward, okay, well, now the pendulum is kind of like moving a little bit, right? So it really depends what you're getting for him. But that's the calculation that they're going to have to do. Is it worth it for what they're losing with having him in the lineup? It's not an easy question.
So we'll go to move on to the next question so we can go a little bit. We have a couple of questions. And I'm going to add another question after that question, because this is a question of the day. So first of all, Mr. William McClary asks you, which app would be chosen for the All-Star game tomorrow?
My bet will probably still be on Suzuki to be there over the rest, just because he's been there before and his numbers have slightly improved a little bit. So I'll go with that. I'll go with Suzuki.
Mr. Marko?
It should be Suzuki. If Caufield gets the call, then it's a marketing person that made the decision, not a hockey person.
What about Mike Madison?
I don't think so.
A lot of good defensemen out there. Yeah.
And the Eastern Conference? Or the Atlantic Division?
And the Atlantic and the Metro. They're doing it this year by
that's
divisions,
why.
right?
That's what I'm thinking about that. And I said that. But the question of the day, guys, is this part. It's a good one. I can wait to see that. My question today is about which Montreal Canadien you will take first to start your team. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caufield, Kirby Dach, Juraj Slafkovsky.
Okay. Okay. So okay. So who are you building?
I go to
your
rest
team
room
around?
and be back. Just kidding.
Go have a souvlaki.
Here, you go first on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with any of them, to be honest. But if I had to probably select one, I like what I'm seeing, it would be between Dach and Slafkovsky, in my eyes, because they also bring that size element and physicality to the game that is essentially needed, especially when you're in playoff situations, which these guys haven't yet experienced. I mean, Suzuki and Caufield a little bit that year that they made the run and were in as rookies, but I think if everything develops properly, what we're starting to slowly see with Slafkovsky is a complete package. He won't necessarily excel in one area where you say, oh, this guy's a goal scorer, or he's just a playmaker, or he's just a guy that plays physical, but he's going to bring aspects of each of that part of the game to his repertoire. And he's now starting to show that he's a very good back checker as well. So I like all those things, and I would probably select Slafkovsky.
Well, I think if you're drafting a team, I think you always have to secure the center, right? So, I'm tempted to say Dach, because he's probably my favorite player. But you just don't have enough sample to really kind of say that you would want to completely build your franchise a guy like that. So, again, are any of these players foundational, kind of like franchise players? Because, Coach, what you're asking us to do is say, okay, which of these is a franchise player? None of them are franchise.
Well, it was not a franchise. It's just like if you have to have a pick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
On the question, I don't say it's a franchise. It's just like which app you will select first.
I get it, right? But by me choosing one, somebody's could potentially say, oh, okay, you think this player, you're building your franchise around him. So none of these I think are franchise players, but I would pick Suzuki because I think he's the most known commodity. He's a center. Again, not enough kind of sample for many of those other players that you're talking about. So for me, I would choose Suzuki for sure.
Perfect. Coach? And it also, it was about like any player have a contract or play with the Habs, or any player is drafted by the Montreal Canadiens. So it was just that way. It was not specific for players. I put it in my number 5, any player. So I just want to mention that. So and then we get about now 600-700 people does the vote now every day. So it's pretty good about that for sure. So enough time. You go with who?
I went with Slafkovsky, slightly over Doc.
Not bad about this too. I understand we kept the full forward there, right? Marko, if we knew a little bit more the project of what Kirby Doc can do, or we ask that question the next 2 years, right? We have a better way to have the right answer compared right now. We may be guessing a little bit more because we don't really know. But again, we have a defenseman, and this organization could be better at what we got as a forward.
I thought so initially when you asked that question, Coach, it crossed my mind because again, we haven't seen Reinbacher and we haven't really seen Hudson or play in the NHL, right? So I thought for a moment about Gouli. I was like, okay, like would you choose Gouli as a foundational guy? But because of the depth that we have at left-hand defenseman, I just don't think I would choose. I wouldn't choose from that position. I would choose, okay, so what is Montreal's greatest position of need? And I want to secure that. So I would choose Suzuki because, you need, in order to win in the NHL, you need centers. I think it's the most critical position, I think, like other than goaltending, obviously. So to me, Suzuki I don't think we've seen the total upside of Suzuki. Again, we've had this debate many times here. Will Suzuki ever be a 90 or 100-point player? No. But Patrice Bergeron usually was a 75, 80-point guy. So will Suzuki ever be as good of a two-way player as Patrice Bergeron? I don't think so. But if he's able to be a good two-way, 200-foot player and can bring you 75 to 80 points, I think you can win. You can build a winning team around that. If you have two other very good centers that are bringing you 50, 60 points, right? So if you have that balance, so I still think Suzuki would be my choice with the assets that we have now.
Awesome. We want to welcome back Gary Cournoyer. Sorry about that, Mr. Enortap. Gary Cournoyer is in the house, and Roger Delaney, our friend Roger Delaney, is in the house. You want to add something, Mr. Enortap?
No, it's just asking for your opinion. I know your number 1 would be Pizzetta, but who would be right behind them?
Yeah.
Who would be your
again? It's just a question where we can have a good kind of conversation. But look, Montreal won yesterday by score 4-3.
He's then the question.
He's not going to answer.
No. You have to answer your question, Coach.
What?
Nice try. But you have to give your answer. You can't just.
I said, like, if I have a choice, I would maybe thinking about a defenseman, right? But because it's a 4-forward right there, and we don't know the end of each one of them, and my first has always been the center line. I would give a better chance to Kirby Doc. Whatever the injury is not there, is there. But I feel like I have a choice right now, and we don't know. Was like get out of the draft, right? I would go with the 6'4" draft center.
Okay, all right. Glad to have you on the record. You're on the record now. That's okay.
But I try to go around any time. Like I don't want to get the same answer.
That's okay.
Slafkovsky with
That's okay.
Suzuki. So, I'm shocked you take
But
Suzuki. You don't like Suzuki. So
I never said I didn't like
just kidding about that. The first line, guy. We won't talk about the first line. I make a video today about the first line, and Suzuki had 9 points in the last 7 games on the road trip. Caufield and Mr. Slafkovsky, both of them at 6 points on the road trip. So yeah, but it's not like a crazy number. That's pretty great number. When you think about something, first of all, when you play on the road, you have no, you cannot make the line versus the line, right? You have no choice. Second thing, most of the night they play against the best line to opponent team. So I think overall was a great road trip for the Montreal Canadiens, 3-3-1 during 7 games. And then, of course, that first line. So you can go a little bit overall. The 7 game road trip. You can talk about the first line. You can talk about the game last night. So I'll let you go with everything. That will give a lot of confidence to talk about, and the people in the show will be sharing with us. So what do you think overall about that road trip? So let's start in with. Let's go with Marko on that one.
Okay, well, to start off with the first line, when you look at the numbers, it's actually pretty impressive, right? Like the amount the underlying metrics show that they're not only competing against, and like you said, coach, they're not getting matchups because they're playing on the road, right? So even with the matchups that they're getting on the road, not only are they competing with these other teams, but they're actually dominating against some of these teams as well, against the other lines that they're playing. Now, the only thing is that if you look, right now Montreal is pretty much like a one-line team. Like the metrics for the Suzuki line are very, very good, but then the metrics for the other lines not so good, right? So just really good continued progress with this line. You're really starting to see them, really gel. Again, like people, I think I forget who it is, but somebody calls them. What do they call Slafkovsky in our chat there? They call them like I can't remember, but people get frustrated because Slafkovsky is not getting shots off quick enough, and things like that, right? So I can see why people are frustrated. It doesn't look like he looks that polished out there, but if you really look at the small things that he's doing out there, he is really having a big impact on the game. Would I like it so that he would execute a bit faster, not have 90% of his shots tipped by the defenseman's stick every time because he takes too long to kind of get it off? Yes, but I think that's going to come. That's just a processing speed thing. We've talked about that here before. The processing speed will get better, and I think he'll start to get those shots off. So I think production will come. The production is not really. Sorry, Coach, you want to interject?
Yeah, I want to just give you details, and for you, maybe for the people in the chat. If you want to see Slafkovsky to become better shooter, watch his skate on the ice when you get a puck. His skate are not a great direction, and if you have a goalie, you can see he will not shoot the puck right away. So if you're on a power play example, you play on the flanker, right, where you have a one-timer or a better way, is the skate is square to Caufield, so he's not going to shoot. He's not going to get a great play. So he have a better position of his skating. One is on the power play. It's a really deep details, but this is something you have to pay attention every time you see a players. Look compared to Stankos or Ovechkin or other players, like watch the skating of the skate of the or the Slafkovsky. Sorry about that, but I think it's a
That's okay. Well, you're talking about. Yeah, like I totally agree, Coach. But I don't think the issue is that the goalie is reading Slafkovsky. He's not even getting it past the defender. Like the defender, I think there's a lot of hesitation too, as well too. Like I think he's watching too many Bedard and Matthews videos. Like he's trying to do the whole kind of like, change of angle on his shot and kind of like bring it towards him, and he's just not able to execute that as fast as say Bedard and Matthews right now. So again, like getting your shot off quickly is even more important than where you put it most of the time, to be honest, right? So I think, but again, I'm not worried about that. That will all come. I'm pretty confident.
I think that comes with time and with confidence, Marco. I mean, we lose sight of the fact that he's still growing into that large body frame of his, and So he's going to be clumsy at times, but it's something that he'll easily adjust to. I mean, we've seen a lot of difference between the way he handled the puck last year versus this year. He's driving more plays this year. I think once he starts seeing that a few more goals are going in off of his own stick, his first impulse won't be to pass the puck, but probably, if he's got a good shot, you have to take it. And he's got a good shot, especially down low.
Agree. So in terms of the overall road trip, guys, like I think we talked about this. Like I think one of my headlines going into this was I was viewing this as like a game 7, like a game 7 series in the playoffs, right? So if you look at the results, the way that I guess it kind of played out is they made it to game 7 and they lost in overtime, right? So pretty good, like so 7-game series, you take it into overtime and you lose. So they didn't win the best of 7 series. If you're St. Louis, but pretty close. I don't think St. Louis will be upset with those results at all. The thing that I'm the most kind of curious about, and I'd love to hear people in the chat and you guys kind of tell me what you think about this, but in the last, I think it's the last 4 games, I looked at the last 7 games. I went and I looked and I did an average. So if you look at the 7 games before the road trip, Montreal on average was giving up 36 or I think 37 shots per game, right? If you look in the last 7 games during this road trip, it went down to 32 shots per game. And to be honest, like if you take away 2 of those games, which were in the high 30s, it would be even lower. It'd be like almost like 29 shots per game. So what we're seeing, like I commented on this in the chat yesterday, but if you look at the last 3 games, halfway through the game, Montreal had only allowed almost less than 10 shots. So it's really incredible. Like and it's not just like a game or 2, guys. We're really starting to see a pattern here where Montreal is really not allowing a lot of shots on net, which means that they're allowing less chances, and there's a whole trickle down from that. And it's exactly what Martin St. Louis has been saying since the beginning of the year, right? He's emphasizing the fact that if they play more in the offensive zone, they won't be in the defensive zone as much, right? And you're seeing the defensemen come down, pinch on the board, keeping these these cycles going in the offensive zone for longer, keeping plays in the offensive zone longer, and it's all resulting in less chances, going to the other team, which means you're going to take less penalties because you're not chasing guys, which means that you're going to get less injuries because you're not blocking shots. Like it's all a trickle down. And guys, going into the season, what did I say? For me, I wasn't that concerned about how many points is Montreal going to have. How many goals is Caufield going to have? I'm not really worried about all that stuff. All that stuff will kind of come naturally. What I wanted to see is, will Martin St. Louis and his coaching staff evolve the team? Will they evolve as a coaching staff? And will we see actual progress and see Montreal play the right way? Now, what I'm curious, though, about the chat is, because I saw a lot of people in the chat talk about this, right? Like, it's not as exciting hockey to watch, right? Because sometimes it can be kind of low event hockey, right? Especially in the first period of some of these games. Like, it's kind of like ping pong back there. It's a little less exciting to watch because they're not trading chances. But how open are people to having Montreal be in less, shootout type games, but get wins and learn how to play the right way? I'm kind of curious about what people think in the chat about that, and curious about what you guys think.
Well, I think it's a bit of a leading question, though. Like, obviously, you want to see your team win under whatever set of circumstances. If you can get, a great offensive game out of it, that's a bonus. But I don't think, like, I could look at a 2-1 hockey game and I could look at a 7-6 hockey game and pinpoint the positives and negatives from each one of those. What you don't want to see is bad habits that are forming, whether you're playing 2-1 or 7-6. Like you're talking about yesterday's game, I thought one of the improvements that we saw there was how disciplined they were for a change. They weren't going to the penalty box as often. They were very responsible up the middle. They outblocked Dallas, who's usually a very disciplined team themselves and block a lot of shots in front of their goaltenders. But yesterday it was a margin of 25-9, I believe. And again, that shows me that they're all buying into the fact that they have to contribute as a team. And it was the only game of the 7, and you can pretty much go through the whole year, and this will be consistent, where they didn't win the battle at the faceoff. And I know some people don't believe in that stat too much, but I do, because it gives you possession of the puck, and now the other team is chasing you. And yesterday, I think the margin was 51-49, and it was only because of the last 6 minutes of the game. If you noticed, I don't think we won out of the last 6 or 7 faceoffs. I don't think we won one single one of those, which begs you can measure the absence of somebody like a Dvorak in that situation, even though Monahan did well. But it's good to have 2 or 3 different players that can win faceoffs.
But I guess my question, Enortap, is okay. So what you're saying, yeah. So Montreal took less penalties last night. They had, didn't have to block as many shots. But I think it goes back to what I was saying, that they're allowing less chances and giving up less shots because they're spending more time in the offensive zone because, D-men are pinching on the wall and they're keeping offensive. They're able to break out a little bit more effectively because guys are coming back and all those things, right? So, but what that means sometimes is that the excitement level of the game for the average fan might not be as exciting, right? Because it kind of looks like ping pong out there because a lot of it happens in the neutral zone. So, I guess I'm curious as to, are fans willing? Because in the past, Montreal, like if you watch Montreal in the 90s and in the early 2000s, Montreal was always considered to play like under coaches like Jacques Martin and Claude Julien. Montreal always played too defensive and boring, and we wanted more scoring and things like that, right? So are fans willing to live through more defensive and more kind of responsible hockey sometimes if it's not going to be flashy, I guess, is the question.
But for the most part, Marko, isn't that what playoff hockey is all about? You rarely see blowouts. You don't see very high scoring games. It's about the grinding. It's about who's willing to sacrifice what for the team. And I don't know. Personally, I'm very old school. I like the fact that the entire team contributes defensively, and if it's a low scoring game, then it's a low scoring game. I get enjoyment out of that just as much as a high scoring game.
Coach, question to you, like, so I'm assuming you've noticed like the change in how many shots that they're giving up. Like, what are you seeing from them in the last 5 games? That's
so really I get the time you talk, guys. I did some search for the last 10 game. They have only 6 out of the 10 game with a maximum of 33 shot, 2 time, one game 32 time, 1 at 31 and 2 at 30. The average shot usually is 32.9 for the Montreal Canadiens this season. In NHL. So you can see the drop, or I say only 1 shot per game. 3 of the shot, 3 game of the 10 I'm talking about are also in shootout. So 2 of them are shootout at overtime too. So they drop the shot, and that helping them, because the key behind the shot, you also said, Marko, is about 5 versus 5, the high danger scoring chance. That's the most important thing you have to look about the stat. But this is a team, the team have a really problem for many, at least 2 years with Martin saying they give a lot of shot. When you give a lot of shot, you don't have the puck at the end of the night. That reflect to me at the face off for Enortap. On the face off for Enortap, I would say to you, yes, it's good to win your face off. Most important at when you have a special team. That's really a stat you need to figure out, because if you have a winning face off on the offensive side of power play, but you have the puck right away, you can set up you break out. On the flip side, if you win the face-off on defensive zone on the PK, but you can icing the puck. 1 at 5 versus 5, you have to always say, okay, we won the face-off, but what we do about after that with the puck? Do we control the puck, or we give a puck right away with a shot? That's something you have to figure out. And then after that, where do you win your face-off? You can winning 60% of your face-off on the neutral zone. We have not much an impact compared on the offensive zone on the fin saison. A little bit more deep about analytics, but that was the most important thing about that. I think for me overall, I would say to you, is remember Marko when they won the game against Vegas on the road. There's Martin St-Louis said this is the best game for the Montreal Canadiens. Then they dropped after that. They really struggled until they played against Boston Bruins. They got really deep, but they got beat badly, 5-2, if I remember. And one thing we said to it was the biggest problem for him. It was the forecheck. This is a really important game of Montreal Canadiens applied during that 7 game compared to the past. Their forechecking was excellent. They play ball as a group together. It's not perfect, but you can see some positivity of behind those games on the road. And I think that shocked me, guys, to see Montreal and the beginning of the 2024 with a record of 500. That was not my expectation. With the number of the injuries, with the goalie performance, I think the goalie performance make again. Marko, many times you said this in the past when Enortap. The performance of the goalie did not give us exactly who we are as a team. Because Montembeault honestly gave 4W more what is supposed Montreal win. And then Montembeault is, I believe it's Primo Wallen gave a 2-3 more game W what Montreal should not win those games. So they are maybe win 6-7 game more what they're not supposed to win at the end of the night. So that would hiding a bit more the performance overall. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but that's what's changing. That's what's changing over the last, say, 7 games, right? Is I 100% agree with you. Earlier in the season, the record was inflated a little bit by the goaltending performances, right? But wouldn't you guys agree that in the 7 games, yes, like there's been good goaltending performances, but I think their record over the last, say, 7 to 10 games is actually pretty reflective of the quality of play that they've had, right? Like, I don't think the goalies have stolen games to the extent that they did at the beginning of the year, right? Like, I think you could even argue that there's some of the games that they didn't get points in that they should have gotten points out of, right? Because they were right there. Like, it was 1-goal games, especially the 3 losses against Florida and then Carolina. They were right there for those games, right? Like a little bit tighter and a little bit more finishing, and they could have easily gotten points out of one of those 3 games. So I agree, Coach. Like, the beginning of the year, the record was definitely inflated by goaltending, which is the same thing that we were seeing last year. But to me, that's the most reassuring and positive thing that we're seeing about the Montreal Canadiens right now and the way that they're playing right now is that they're playing the right way and they're getting rewarded, right? So very, very positive stuff.
And there's a reason why the shots on goal have gone down is because if you notice the last 10 games or so, we're blocking a lot more shots. So the goalies obviously those are pucks that they don't have to see or save, and it makes a differut.
We're seeing it also.
Yeah, well, the last 4 or 5 games, I jotted it down, and they've out blocked the other team in terms of shots on net. So, that also goes towards contributing success for the team. Like, if you look at Philadelphia, that's one thing that Tortorella gets them to buy in. And it doesn't matter if you're a defenseman or a forward. If you can block a shot, you approach the player as they're shooting, you take away any lanes that they have, and it makes it easier. Your goaltending becomes much more magnified that way.
I think block shots can be misleading too, though, right? Like, sometimes you see teams that lead in block shots are some of the worst teams because it means that they have the puck less and they're just always having pressure towards them, right? So I think it's a good metric. Like, it's a good cultural thing to block shots. But
yeah, you're right, Marko. But in all fairness, let's look at who they played in these 7 games, right? They've played pretty talented teams in the NHL, right? The teams that you could say are going to challenge for the cup. Like, there's Florida, there was Tampa, there was the Dallas yesterday. You had Minnesota. Well, Minnesota probably won't challenge, but they had Winnipeg. So 4 or 5 of those games were against
they're playoff teams.
They're teams that you expect will outshoot you on any given night. So the fact that they didn't necessarily do that speaks to how well they played as a defensive core, as a team.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Like, blocking shots is good, but I believe more in coaches, I guess, theory that it's the forecheck, right? Like, and when we say forecheck,
Yeah,
it's not just like the two forwards that are kind of cycling, but it's also the defense pinching in at very specific times to keep the play alive in the offensive zone, right? That's what Matt
I
St. Louis
agree with
talks
that.
about. Yeah, so I think really that's the big game changer. I think coach is right? Like, there was that period of time where St. Louis really kind of identified that as a problem area for Montreal. And I said that in my headline, right? In my headline today is, St. Louis wanted to sell them on playing the right way, and ultimately that's kind of what they're doing right now. They bought into this way of playing. He says something in a press conference as an area of focus, and then we can all see the team succeeding or implementing the thing that they've been practicing, right? So very encouraging, but it looks like coach wants to move on to the next topic here. He's got a new
Let's do
thing.
it.
Yeah, I'm watching the fight between Lipushkin and McMahon.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
0-0 still into the
They're a bit
second
more like
series.
Edouard Carpentier versus Mike Doug Vachon, but it's a story one of the time.
I
Anyhow,
don't need Anaheim
let's look at the
win
news,
this
guy. More injuries. They were Rack, and then we got Anderson. And my question to you, so now, who do you call up?
Well, I think the first call up will probably be Heineman. That's, to me, it'll probably be a no brainer. And then, I wish they would. I wish they would give a contract to how do you pronounce his name, Gignac, because I think he deserves a shot. But short of that, if they don't give him a contract, I can probably, boy. I could see even Farrell getting a chance because he has been playing well and he had a good showing at the juniors as well. So he's been playing well with Laval as well. So there could be an opportunity that he comes up as well. Or will they bring up? They'll go the opposite direction and bring up a defenseman, and then just rotate who sits out on a nightly basis.
You want to call a defenseman?
No, I don't necessarily. I'm just trying to project what they might be thinking. I think it'll be two forwards, but I could possibly see even somebody like Jack-Eye coming up. I
have
don't know
already
at
have
this
a
stage.
Langstrom, and the Langstrom is still there.
Yeah.
He's still there. Yeah. So that could be a switch. I don't know.
They need absolutely a one forward.
Yeah, so I think they'll definitely call up. It again, it depends. Like Dvorak, it sounds more like a day-to-day thing, but they're going to be back in Montreal now, right? So they have the ability to kind of like. So if they really need to call up to, I think I agree. Like Heineman for sure is a guy that looks like he's kind of like in the first call-up mode right now. But you guys know my position on that. I would love, and coach, you were talking about Pizzetta, like why is he still in the lineup? Hey, call up Jack-Eye, get him to play on the fourth line. I would be all in favor of that. But obviously, it's not something that they're going to do. But that'd be the move that I would do. It would make the fans really happy. You bring up Jack-Eye, get him to play up.
Marko,
I don't think
if you're going to experiment, this is the time to do it, right? You have nothing to lose.
No, guys, I've been all over this since last year. I think Jack-Eye would be awesome at four, but I don't think it's in their plans. But if they do, I will be the first one to cheer if it does happen. But I don't think it's going to happen. So
absolutely,
probably Heineman. I think even though it's Dvorak that's injured, it's a center. I don't think that they're going to call up another center from Laval. They're just going to have Monahan and Evans apart and play center that way. So, I suspect, there's different guys that you can bring up, to play. Like, I don't think that, for anybody asking, I don't think, Roy is going to be coming up. I don't think, I think they just want to let him play down there. I don't see him coming up. So I don't know. I to be honest, like I would love to see Mishak come up and play as well too. But I don't see him really. They don't seem to believe in him very much. The management team, or certainly the coaching staff in Laval, doesn't really seem to believe in him very much. There's sorry, I always forget his name, but who's the not Swedish guy, but
Anderson.
Yeah. So he would probably be the second call up that would, because he has a little bit of NHL experience, so they probably bring him up.
Is he still injured though, or is he
No,
back
he's
now?
back.
No, he's back
Yeah,
now.
He's
For the
back,
people in the chat, talk about Joshua. But he's sick right now, so I don't know. He can call up, but he's sick. I don't think so. They would call Joshua. I think you're
No.
right. I think the only one, they could go anywhere, but I think Enneman would be the guy they would call up a short time anyway. For that opportunity and go from there. I think if you want to try Jakai, you don't try Jakai in NHL. You have to try him in Laval first before you go on that way. So
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
that would be my suggestion about that. We have Kevin back in the house tonight. Don't forget, guys, to click on the likes. Welcome back. Jordan Taylor, 32, knocked the door. King of Gamer, knocked the door. A lot of great comments in the chat. I appreciate that. Larry Lavelli continues to carry on. Look, go, have to go. Continues to give us. They would call that Condora. We need size. About that, Abinishim Isaac, yeah, no thanks. Randy N knocked the door. Why do the Canadiens always find a way to put a defenseman on the fourth line? And certain to Jakai and previous year with Yannick Weber and Swiss defenseman Mike Stroll. Because when Randy, the reason why you maybe go there is because you have no spot right now for Jakai as a left defenseman. This is the reason why we talk about, you have a chance to get there. That'd be good. Maybe an opportunity for that. Jordan said, I'm impressed with Olenin. Let me run the pocket. Grab it, cannot. Here we go. We got that one. We'll move on to the next one. Here we go. We have use homework, trade or wait. Every month we talk about this. Everybody said they're going to try the goaltender. Did not happen yet. But what do you think overall? What's Kenyo's going to do now? We have we have about 8 weeks for the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, can you use homework? Secondly, do you think you're going to move quicker or wait to the end around the trade deadline to make some move for the Montreal Canadiens? And secondly, or thirdly, tell me what you expect. Maybe the two players you expect you're going to move out for the Montreal Canadiens onto the trade deadline. So we'd like to have the people in the chat sharing this about those questions. And then let's start with Enortap on that one.
Yeah, let's start with the goaltending situation. I think it's no secret that if Hughes can pull off a trade, he definitely will. But remember, he's holding the cards here. I think he's kind of explained that to all three goalies, and they respect that position that he's in. Like it was just rumored yesterday or today even that apparently Trey Living had offered a 6th-round pick for Allen. Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, that's where you wait, and waiting and being patient works in your favor because as you get closer to the trade deadline time, you create more of a buyer's market there and a bit of a challenge between teams in terms of the services that they're seeking from the goalie. Now, a team that's buying, they would be more prudent to try to get a goalie right now. And there's, about a handful of teams that could use a goalie of Allen's experience going there, whether they use them as a 1B or a backup, that's their doing. And they have the assets that maybe Hughes is looking for. So I think it'll happen. I think we just need to be patient. I thought it would have happened already by now, but obviously if nothing of sustenance has come in, then no rush, leave it alone. In terms of a couple players that may go, I mean, we've talked about the circumstances around Monahan. I think if you get the right deal, then you definitely owe it to yourself to explore that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a pick. As a matter of fact, I would prefer if they could get a relatively established prospect that is about to either make the leap into the NHL or is there right now. Whether a team is willing to give that up for a veteran like Monahan, if they're dealing from a position of strength, like a New Jersey is, then that might come to fruition. Otherwise, you're not going to see it happen. Now, with Dvorak, it's going to be a little bit trickier. I don't necessarily see him going. And it might not be as busy as we think. Unless something comes along that really blows them out of their minds in terms of a deal that's in our favor, I don't anticipate it being a very busy day for Montreal.
Yeah, I think Elliot Friedman last week, reported that Kent Hughes is a very specific price that he's looking for Allen, and I think you're right. I think it was Toronto, that offered a sixth or something like that for Allen, and obviously that's not the price that Hughes is looking for him. But it's a dangerous game, guys. It's a game of chicken, a little bit, right? It's a risky game. There's only so many teams that are going to really be willing to take on a goalie that has another year on his deal as well. So it's a risky game. It's poker, right? Kent Hughes is being really patient here with it, but there's an element of risk to that too, right? Because at some point, I saw Happy Nation earlier say that, Samsonov cleared waivers, so that means the goalie market, there's no way that Montreal is getting anything for their goaltenders. But guys, have you seen how Samsonov has played? He's unplayable in the NHL right now. So I wouldn't use that as a barometer as to kind of what the goalie market is. Is Samsonov is just an unplayable guy in the NHL right now. He has a sub 800, save percentage in the last 5 games, right? So I wouldn't read into that too much. But I am slightly concerned, though, about about this game that Kent Hughes is playing, right? I get that he wants to get as much as he can for Allen. Let's not
kind of bidding war.
Yeah, I get it, right? But I don't know. Like I said, it's a game of chicken, right? So at some point, there's these teams that have a need right now. They're either going to find it somewhere else, or their problem is going to get resolved. Either their injury, the guy comes back from injury, or the guy that hasn't been playing well starts playing well. It's a very small window, right? So it's a risky game. Anaheim just scored 1-0. Vetrano, that's a guy that could go at the trade deadline for Anaheim, for sure.
Yeah.
Frankly, yeah, maybe Vancouver would be a good spot for Vetrano. But so bit of a dangerous game with the goaltending. For everything else at the trade deadline, coach, we'll have to see kind of how things play out. There's always teams that kind of strike earlier. You have a Jim Rutherford kind of style. When he was with Pittsburgh and Carolina in the past, where he likes to go out and do his business early, right? For me personally, if I was a GM, I would want to have, if I'm going to make changes to my team, I want to do it way before the trade deadline, because you see sometimes you have players that come in right at the deadline and they just never gel with the teammates. It screws up the chemistry. You don't have time to get things back on track. So for me, if I was a GM, I would make moves earlier rather than later. But we'll see. Again, Montreal has some big decisions to make. Like I said, it all comes down to the value versus what you're losing when it comes to guys like Savard and Monahan. Everything else, your Pearsons and players like that, I think those are easy decisions for them to make. If you can get anything for Pearson, then I think you do that. But Savard and Monahan, these are core guys in Montreal's culture right now. They play very, very important roles. Caufield was on Spitting Chicklets. I haven't watched it, but from what I read, he mentioned specifically how important Monahan is to the dressing room and how important it is for him to be there, right? So if you're going to give up Monahan, you better have a backup plan to bring in more leadership next year, because or else you're kind of falling into that trap that the Senators and the Sabres are currently in right now.
Yeah, the goaltending situation, Marko, I think it'll be resolved sooner than later. I think it'll come to a point where he knows that he being Hughes, can't afford to stick with the three goalie system. It's not fair to all three goalies. And if at the end it means you're going to get a third or a fourth for Allen, then so be it. But that would happen closer to the trade deadline time.
But coach, do you think that Kent Hughes is playing chicken right now? Like, do you find it a bit risky what he's doing? Like,
Now, the time you're talking about that, you talk about money and you talk about goalies, return on that. And I'm thinking about, we are about 1 year, and I think I'm said next year, you're going to accept three goaltender in NHL on the roster. So, thinking that way, we don't know what Ken Hughes knows, right? We don't know what he's thinking about the NHL. Maybe he got that memo,
Yeah,
he expect that. So, is it possible that could maybe wait and keep the three goaltender until to the end of the year, because next year they know that's possible. Now, I'm just open up that. I'm not said, I heard this somewhere, but I'm just sharing with this because you talk about that. So
yeah,
is it
yeah,
that way they will said, you know what, we keep the three goaltender because next year all three will be with us next year.
yeah. I think I mentioned this, but by the way, coach, like we've been talking about expanding the roster on Hockey Nation.
Oh, yeah,
We've been talking about that for 2 years. Like since
yeah.
I've been on here, I've been talking
yeah, it
about it.
makes sense.
Maybe NHL executives are tuning in, seeing our stuff on YouTube, and I'll take credit for it. But yeah, it makes complete sense, right? Like we talked about this, goaltending is a very demanding position. The goaltending position is evolving. Nobody's playing 70 games anymore in the NHL, so they have to look at it, right? Like you can't debate that the goaltending position is evolving. Every team, or the amount of teams that are struggling with the goaltending position, I've never seen it in my like many years of watching hockey. It's never been like this. So I think even Daniel Sauvageau was on RDS talking about it. You're hearing a lot more people in the media. So hopefully it catches on. And if that's the case, then Montreal is making a case that it works. It can work. It's you can say, yeah, it's hard for goalies to get in a rhythm, but it depends how much value you put on practice time with the goalie coach too, right? That's a problem during a season. You never get chance to work on the mechanics of your position with your goaltending coach. So
The only
Montreal's
the
a
only
good case.
sorry, Marco, but the only problem I foresee with the three goalie system, because I agree with it as well, if they expand the roster, is it's about supply and demand. And I think we're in a stage now where there aren't that many quality goalies that are out there that would fill, like we're talking 32 teams. If everybody goes with three goalies, you're talking 96 goaltenders that are NHL quality, right? Otherwise, there's no sense in having a third goalie if your third goalie's either never going to play or rarely, and they're going to get blown out. So it's really about supply and demand. Fortunately, Montreal, they're in a good position with all three because none of them have really hurt them to any degree. But how many other teams can say the same thing right now?
I don't know. Like if a team plays well, a good game, like you can use
Yeah,
Toronto like if you use Toronto as an example, right? So I think it was last year they had Samsonov and Murray out for extended period of time, and Shalgren, remember Shalgren? He
yeah,
came in,
yeah.
he played like 20 games for them, and Toronto and he was barely a 900 save percentage goalie while he was in Toronto. But if you play a good defensive game, I'm not saying you can base your whole season on a subpar 900 goaltender, right? But I think that's what you're looking for because really the big difference, guys, between a goalie that plays in the AHL versus the NHL, it's probably not talent, really. It's just consistency. If you're looking for, that's why sometimes you see a guy get called up from the AHL and he'll play really well and win a game and everybody's like, oh my god, this guy's awesome. But if you play him for 15 games, he's not going to have those same results. The difference
Right.
between an NHL goaltender and an AHL goaltender is the ability to do it consistently at a high level.
Right.
So your third goaltender, then you're basically just choosing the guy who has the ability to play in the NHL, but just can't do it as a full-time guy. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Coach, in your eyes, what's the biggest difference that's happened with goaltending in terms of, like, we used to have in the 70s, 80s, 90s goalies that could play 65 plus games, and now they seem to be breaking down more and more often. What's the biggest contributing factor in your eyes for that?
Traveling, overload game, more game. If you talk about 7 days, like, yeah, they play 70 games, 72 games, 66, 76 game, right? And then after that, it was never play like they from, Boston, Toronto, Rangers, you know what I mean? Like, they was not going to California barely, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think traveling is a big thing about that. And then the overload of one game every 2 nights, and then 3 game every 4 nights, and those situations like that is demanding. This is one point. The second point now today, the last 10 years, is the way they become goaltender between the pipe now as the 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 techniques change, right? It's very difficult now for the hips
Yeah.
compared was before butterfly. I can go all the way like that. So those
Reverse
situations like
VH,
that
reverse
has made the
VH.
goaltender have a difficult time to performing at the top over there. And if you look about the goaltending situation everywhere, if you don't have like a guy like a Alibak, Sorokin, or Vasilevsky, those kind of goaltender, you're in trouble now in NHL. And fortunately for the Montreal Canadiens, guys, we have a great goaltender back up together, and they make them like a number one at that moment with the Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens goaltender was not a problem since the beginning of the season compared to New Jersey, Edmonton, Toronto. You look right now, the Kings, if they lose Dalbat, they are in trouble for the playoff, right?
Yeah.
If you go like you can go like that, yeah, a lot of teams are not on difficulty. So to have that luxury to get 3 goaltenders they have right now, that's maybe for me keep used to be a little bit more patient. And then I always said, Marko and Enortap, you follow hockey like I do, they don't pay a lot in return for goalies in the NHL. That's what they think about that. So for me, this is what the problem. Like, you look Washington tonight, they go with Shepard. Unfortunately, Shepard is not goaltender. Like, they lost Lindgren or they lost Quimper. They are in trouble over there. So this is a situation. I believe that's the reason I believe Montreal will be really patient about the goalies. And you know what? With all the injury we got, Anderson, Dak, Newhook, RHP, and everybody else, we are lucky we don't have any injury for the goaltender. And that's area we could have an injury and we not have to worry about that. And compared to the forward where we lost the top 6, we're in trouble.
Yeah. So, I think you're bang on, Coach. Like, the reverse VH is very, very taxing on the hips, and I would be very curious. The goalies that are playing that many games, like Hellebuck and Vasilevsky, I don't expect him to be like, even like, look at Carey Price. He only played till he was 33, 32. So you're not going to see like Marc-Andre Fleury. He's 39 right now. Like, I don't think we're ever going to see that again. Like, a guy that played 60, 70 games and played till he was 39. I would be surprised if these, like Hellebuck, like, the wheels might fall off on that guy. He's a horse right now, but I don't know, man. Like, we'll see how long of a career he has. Like, I hope the best for Winnipeg and for him. But look at Vasilevsky. He had his first major surgery, and he hasn't been really the same so far since coming back, right? So we'll see how that goes. But it's evolving. It definitely is changing, and the hockey world needs to adjust for sure.
I agree with you. We'll go to move on. We have about 15 minutes to go. We talk about the prediction of the next 2 games, and the next 2 games coming from Montreal Canadiens. So I would like to share it with you. One thing we never talk about this, and is about the performance of the defensemen. I look like they are tied right now with the most goals by a group of defensemen. And with Colorado, I think it's 29. I could be wrong by the number. But what make them so good to score goal. Other fact they need maybe a no whistle for the referee, but of other fact that problem, what make Montreal to perform so good with as a scorer from the defenseman. You think about Savard 3 goal and Barron, Madison 6 of them have 6. Kovacevic have 5 goals, I believe now, and it's crazy if you think about that.
I think the way that if you listen to some of the interviews that the defensemen are giving, and you can see it on the ice, right, is they're encouraged. The defense are encouraged to jump in as long as it's a smart move. And the way that they view it is that it's a 5-man attack, right? Like it's almost like positionless hockey. And I think it was Kovacevic and even Harris said this a couple times. What they've seen in terms of a difference this year is that in practice, like I guess in normal NHL practices that other teams other than Martin Saint Louis, the defensemen are usually just there for drills, right? Like they're there to be there on the PK or 5-on-5. They're only there to break up plays from the offensive players. But the type of drills that Saint Louis has, they have an opportunity to practice as a unit, as a unit of 5, and so they get the opportunity to practice more offensive plays. So that has a direct impact and direct translation to real time results in game. You find yourself in a position, and guess what? You've been practicing and you know how to execute in those. So it's exactly like the old adage, right? Like practice like you play. That's exactly the results that we're seeing with Montreal. So it's the way they practice, the philosophy that Saint Louis has, the agency that he gives the defenseman to do reads in the game. If you see an opportunity, then go for it. And it's the style of play, like the emphasis on extending cycles in the offensive zone by having the defenseman pinch and then have somebody cover for them. These are all contributions. You can't say it's like because they're all offensive, elite players in the NHL. Why it's not like Montreal has the most elite defensemen in the NHL. It's how they're practicing, the way that they're playing, and obviously, some talent as well too, is my opinion.
Yeah, they have to be opportunistic, and when the opportunity presents itself, they jump into the play. But you're right that as soon as that happens, there's the understanding that one of the forwards is falling back to help in case they lose the puck in that situation. It also does help, although they're not elite. They're not all elite skaters, but the ones we do have are very good stick handlers and skaters, as you can see right there. Like just jump into the play and offer that skill. It's like having a fourth forward, really, at that moment in time. And I don't think it's a surprise that we're, I think, currently number 2 in defenseman scoring in the NHL. It's because of that philosophy that Martin St. Louis has instilled with the players. And I think it'll only get better as you get more qualified defensemen coming up eventually, like Hudson and Reinbacher. That's exactly the style that they want to play.
And that clip that you showed, Coach, of is exactly what I'm talking about. That clip where Harris jumped in on the boards and sealed off the boards and extended that play. Like you could probably find 30 examples like that over the last 5-6 games, right? And that's exactly the secret sauce for the forecheck. Again, like when you hear Martin St. Louis and us talk about Montreal's forecheck, that's part of it. It's not just Slafkovsky and the F1 and the F2 coming in and doing a cycle in the zone. It's the defenseman, coming in, sealing off the wall. It's all part of the forecheck and the strategy they have.
Great point, guys, about that. Leon Renault is in the house. Marco, when you talk about the praxis, right? Martin Louis bring now more the 200 drill at 65 feet drill. So they go at the goal line to the blue line, and they go like 3 versus 3, 4 versus 4, 2 versus 2. They put the goalie face to face or maybe back to back. Is the drill I make. It's a simple drill we do as a coach. You travel, but what happened about that? That would tell the players to be anticipate the play, read the play, jump the play, and become like it's only forward. So this is a way where I believe the defenseman understood with Martin Saint Louis they could become now a forward, and the fact now the F1, F2, F3 they go all the way at the line. You can see Monahan last game, guys. I see Monahan 3 times at least as a defenseman at some point.
Yeah.
They really
Yeah.
communicate very well. I wish they could do the same thing on defensive zone. They can become more better communication on that side. But I think that's the one reason about that. So you bring a lot of great point for that. We have a question for Ron, if you don't mind, because we have only 5-10 minutes to go. I can get there. Ron said that how many teams actually sent their scout out to try and find a great goalie? Seems like their mindset is set on the every other position que goaltending.
Oh man, preach to the choir. Like I've said many times on here, Coach, that for us and for management and scouting staff, goaltending is like a voodoo. It's like it's a very mysterious thing. It's very hard to draft and to project goaltending. The teams that are able to find a better formula to do that are going to be, they're going to benefit from it a lot. I think if I'm not mistaken, Montreal might have hired somebody to scout goaltenders like almost 2 years ago. I can't remember what the guy's name is, but I agree, Coach. Like why NHL teams don't put as much, in pro scouting or even amateur scouting for goaltenders. Why aren't more ex NHL goaltenders being hired as scouts? It seems like they would be absolute gold in any organization. It doesn't make sense to me.
So my best answer, I work on that side, right? You have 700 or 900 forward, you have 300 defensemen, and you have only 100 goalies. Right? That's simple. So your job, you hire more people. What I would say to you, the talent is so low. People say, "Why you have not many scouts?" If you have a scout, can go walk at Iceland. They have a goaltender, boom, boom, boom over there, whatever his last name, and he perform over there. They would try to get that kid over there. That's the reason they got the Russian goalie, and nobody was expected from Montreal last year. They go at Siberia. They try to go everywhere to find a goaltender. They have one in Brazil. I think they will go there. It's just the talent overall, guy, is limited. Look, the World Junior Championship happening there.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of. You can, in the past, you can find 3 great goaltender during the tournament. This year, I don't see one goaltender make an impact.
Havlid, that's pretty much it.
You know what I mean? So this is what.
Yeah, there's a couple like Jacob Fowler's having good tournament.
Yeah, but
well.
it's not like
Yeah.
the next Alibak
like
or the
Carey
next
Price.
Vasilevsky or the next thing, or someone say, you know
Price,
what,
yeah.
we can pick him at number 1. Rabal was the second pick last year, but he didn't. We don't see a goaltender still anything right now in the World Junior Championship. It could happen the next 2 games, but it's limited, right?
I agree that for sure. Like, so you have a general scouting staff and they see, a guy, okay, this guy's big. He's like 6'4" and he looks pretty athletic. Hey, maybe, we'll take a shot on him or whatever. Right. So that's fine. But like what I would do is if you're having a general scouting staff that's already out there scouting for positional players, it's okay for them to flag potential kind of like targets for teams to look at. But then I would bring tape of the guys that I flagged from the more generalist scouts, and then show those tapes to my resident goalie expert to say, okay, so what do you see in this guy? How much raw talent does this guy have versus this guy? And then there's certain things that are applied to all players, right? Like the character of the guy, the competitive level, the athleticism. Like those are things that can apply to all players. But again, there's got to be a better way to draft and develop goaltenders. And I think the teams that figure out a better way to do that, because of, again, the demand of the position the demand and the decreased supply of these goaltenders, whoever has a better process to do it is going to win. in the end.
What I said about that, one thing we don't,
That's
the last 5-10 years, maybe, I think the team Russia, the country Russia developed a great goaltender in NHL. You can go with fun name and you can see the fact they are not there. Possible we don't see those kind of goaltender, and sometimes we're surprised to hear a guy came from Russia and said what's coming from it. So that's maybe something. Secondly, I would said I don't know, but they don't give any chance for the goaltender under 6'1" or 6 foot.
well, that's exactly
If
it. Yeah, you're
if you
right.
look about Evelyn for the Sweden, it's a it's a good goaltender, but again, it's 5'10". So
Havlet, I thought he was 6 foot.
No,
but
I
for
think he's
Somebody's
5'10", 5'10", 5'11",
somebody's
something
saying
like that.
somebody is saying that Fowler is small. Like, isn't Fowler 6'2"?
6 foot.
Pollard is
No, I
6'2".
think yeah.
6'2".
Yeah, Pollard is 6'2".
Yeah, you're
So
absolutely right, Coach. It's something I think that this junior championship has really brought to the front light, and that's that a lot of nations, not just Canada, but I think particularly Canada has ignored over the last I'd say 15 to 20 years. They've really robotized, if there's such a word, the position of goaltending. Like they're looking at size, they're looking at, can they make this particular move from side to side, um, and how agile are they in doing that? And that's what's dictating who makes it and who doesn't make it, rather than looking at the position from a different lens, perhaps. And I think that that's what maybe the Russians are doing much better than us at this point. I would even say even some of the Finn coaching is better than we are in that regard. And it needs to be addressed, because the next time we're going to see this is probably at the Olympics. And you'd be hard pressed to say for Canada, let's say, this is our number one goalie going into the Olympics.
Is it Carter Hart? Is Carter Hart the
It,
best Canadian goalie right now?
exactly, and that says a lot. Like, I like Carter Hart, but he maybe should be your number 2 or 3 and not your number
Yeah.
1.
I'll say this: I think Jean-Sébastien Giguère ruined it for everyone. He was the guy, like, he literally that was his role, right? He was just big, and he
Size.
looked, he was like a crab out there, right? Like and I think a lot of teams and goaltending coaches kind of modeled around
Yeah.
Jean-Sébastien Giguère.
It's a philosophy that has to change, Marco. Otherwise, we're
Yeah.
not going to improve on that position.
look, Matt Rousseau 5'11".
Russo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? I'll
Yeah.
give you an example about that. A lot of comments in the chat. Alan asked us about Team Canada. I'm going to bring this Friday night because we are at the end of the show. I'm going to finishing with two things before we move on. First of all, we're going to go back on the prediction of the next two games. Montreal Canadiens play Thursday night against the Buffalo Sabres, and Saturday against New York Rangers. And every week we do some kind of prediction for everybody in the chat. And the last one we did all together, it was the 3 game on the road, ladies and gentlemen. And RDP, real deal, Prim, maybe still in the house, and Roy Alder one went with 0-3 last one. So congratulations about. So we have an easy one right there. It's a 2 game. It could be 0-2, 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2 or 0, or a 0-1-1 or 0-0-2. That's simple right there. So going to go quick on that one. Then I have a last one question before we finish the show. We'll be back tomorrow night, guys, 7 o'clock for the game Montreal and Buffalo. And then Friday night, the fun Friday night, I'll back with the prediction of the weekend. Here we go.
Sounds good.
As per
Shall we
tradition,
start?
Enortap. Yeah, you go first. Man.
Okay. I'll make it quick. I think it's 1-1 with Buffalo and the Rangers. I think that, returning home, although it's tough, usually the first game back from a long road trip is tough. The first game at home, I still think that they'll have enough to hold off Buffalo. The Ranger game will be a little bit more challenging. It depends on the goaltending situation there as well. I think both teams are probably going to go with their number ones, which will be Shesterkin and Montembeault. And I would suspect maybe Allen would start the Buffalo game. They seem to be going more with Primo on the road rather than at home because of his record so far. So I'll go with Allen and then followed by Montembeault against the Rangers, and I think I'll go with 1-1.
I'm going to go the same but different. I'm going to say 1-1, but I think they're going to lose against Buffalo and they're going to win against the Rangers. Just to be slightly different than Enortap.
1-1, Marco.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go 0-2 because you said 1-1. So I never good about that.
It's okay to have consensus on the panel.
So I would go 0-2 on that one. I think Buffalo are going to surprise Montreal, and then the Rangers are in the slum right now. They're going to be upset about that. And then I don't have the schedule in front of me. I think the Rangers play tomorrow night and they don't play a back-to-back game. So I think it will be 0-10. It's going to be.
Sorry, guys, there's one thing that we haven't brought up that I wanted to bring up. In almost every single game over the last 5, I haven't looked at all of them, but at least 5 out of the last 7 games, Montreal has always gotten the team's backup goaltender. Just one thing to put in there as well, too, right? Like almost every single game, it's the backup goalie. So we'll see if that changes, but that might have some type of impact on the outcomes that we're seeing too, right? Not always facing the number one.
Yeah, because we've been catching a few teams on back-to-backs, so that's going to happen from time to time. Yeah.
Awesome. I tried to get Abination in. I set up everybody in the chat right now, so that's pretty good. Gamer Gamer 002. Oh, King Gamer is 002. I thought he was going with me, but he decided to go with 002. Fixer go 1-1. Fixer. Thanks so much, Fixer, about that one there. The time I fix this, guys, we're going to give it a bit more 5 minutes. I will go to remove that. And Serge Chavard. Oh, my God. Serge Chavard. No. Serge Boisvert said on the PMP today, Lane Hudson is going to be only a power play players in NHL. Agree or disagree?
Listen, Coach, it's possible. I've said here before, like the one concern I have with Lane Hudson, and it's going to sound weird, is his skating. So, but again, you look at Lane Hudson, and he's a very good skater. Like he's a very creative skater, right? His deceptiveness and his elusiveness, his pivots are very, very good. The only thing is his straightaway speed as a skater, as a undersized defender in the NHL. You need to be a really, really good skater, especially backwards. So that's my only kind of concern. Like in order for him to play 5-on-5, we know the type of play that he's going to have to play. He's going to have to be a very smart defender, defend with his stick. He's not going to, body people off pucks, right? So if he's able to get his skating at the level that he needs to, I think he'll be able to be a good contributor 5-on-5 as well. That's my only concern with him. And I know not everybody agrees with me because they think you look at him and he's very exciting to watch skate, right? But when you look at him defending and his speed, that's my only concern. So next time you watch him play, I would encourage you to look for that.
Enortap, want to add something?
Yeah, it's always hard to prognosticate like how they'll translate once they get to the NHL level. I do see some similarities with Quinn Hughes in the way that he plays. I mean, defensively, he's not the strongest defender out there, size-wise. He's a little bit bigger than Lane Hudson, of course. But, I mean, I definitely see him probably quarterbacking the power play. So, when Boisvert says that, Userpen de there, as they call him, he's not totally off, but I think he brings more to the game than just that. He does have creativity. He does have a great first pass that he has. I think the key is going to be matching him up with the right partner that will allow him to bring his creativity to the forefront.
Great point about that, you guys. And we'll talk about another subject next week about that. Marco, we're always looking for players like 22, 23 years old can get. I really like Dawson Mercer score his 12 goal of the year tonight. And
Right-handed though.
We got the Mercer.
we love the breaking news at the end of the show. I think it'd be great to hear that one. Maybe you don't know. We know Max Pacioretty is back in the NHL tonight with Washington. But who remember Chris Tierney? He's back with the Devils tonight in NHL. Chris Tierney, they find out and somewhere in the bar, and they bring him back on the lineup tonight. So Chris Tierney is back in the NHL. I just see that at some point, Marco, the Devils have to pick up something between Alexander Holtz and Dawson Mercer.
Yeah,
Both right-handed shots. They're both right-handed shots, though, Coach.
But we cannot leave Mr. Enortap and Mr. Marko
Mercer.
without this. We have a super shot number one. Larry Lavalley. He did it again, Larry Lavalley, Mr. Larry Lavalley, number 3 of the year of 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, he take the lead with 3 super chat on 2024. Thanks so much, Larry, on that one over there. What a great show. What the way to start the year 2024 altogether. I think the show was amazing. We have over 40 likes tonight. A lot of people pop up and stay around. I think you guys did a very good job. Again, Mr. Marko and Mr. Enortap, thanks again to join me live on the Locker Room. We'll be back Sunday night for the weekly recap. Until then, Montreal play 2 games Thursday night and Saturday night. The Buffalo Sabres and the New York Rangers. And Friday night, for the first time in 2024, I'm going to do the fun Friday night. Don't forget the World Junior Championship. Team Canada is out. I have a question about this. Alan Vaillancourt about. We're going to talk about this Friday night. Mr. Allen was too busy for that one there. But before we leave, guys, we want to remind this one. You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. You have greatness inside of you, guys. I appreciate a lot for your participation tonight. But before we leave, I want to remind you one more thing that we will be out for the way not only the minute your day, but finally we'll nominate the first app of what, Mr. Marko?
Your 21, 2, 3, 4.
He did it again. Thanks so much again for both of you. I look forward to see you next time. Until then, Hockey Nation Show and the App Nation want to tell you one more thing. We love you people. An amazing great night, everybody. See you tomorrow night.
Good night, everyone. Good night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. What is matter? Welcome back, my friend. Randy Savage in the house. Great thing, Maurice Rabillard. Thanks to stop by. Don't forget to click on the likes. Russell Smith is in the house. Joe Monella knocked the door at the end of the night. Larry Lavalley takes them out. RJ Calabro. Have a great night, everybody. I will see you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Oh. Booyah!